Hi friends, welcome to Eco Engineer YouTube channel. Today we discuss essence of Indian traditional knowledge. On this topic, we have to discuss some of the top topics. What is nature and what are the characteristics of traditional knowledge. Now we have to discuss nature. The traditional knowledge (TK) can be characterized as knowledge and WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, GRTKF and IC 7 by 9, which is knowledge in this sense that is originated from intellectual activity in the wide range of social, cultural, environmental, and technological contains and identified by source community as being TK. The characteristics of traditional knowledge. A general characteristics of traditional knowledge is the understanding that all parts of the environment, plant, animal, rock, water, human beings, have a life force. A part of a report of the International Council of the Science (ICCSU), International Council of Science, studied the group of sciences and traditional knowledge characteristics traditional knowledge as a cumulative body of knowledge, known how, practices and representation are maintained and developed by the people, which extended histories of interaction with the natural environment. These sophisticated set of understanding, interruptions, and meanings are part and parcel of the cultural complex that encompass language, naming, and classification systems, resources, use practices, the ritual and spirituality, and worldwide. Traditional knowledge typically distinguishes one community from another. In some communities, traditional knowledge takes on personal and spiritual meanings. Indigenous knowledges or techniques, ITKs, Indian traditional knowledge, are the treasure troves of ancient wisdom and are developed through trial and error, experiences gained over the centuries and over time, tested but generally not substantiated by any scientific evidences. Indigenous knowledge or techniques (ITKs) are treasure troves of ancient wisdom and are developed through a trial and error experiences gained over the centuries and are time-tested but generally not substantiated by any specific evidences. Traditional knowledge regarding the environment, such as topics, proverbs, and cosmologically knowledge systems, may provide a conversion ethos for biodiversity presentation, preservation. The characteristics of traditional knowledge: a collective rights on the knowledge, close association and interdependence with local environment, mostly transferred orally from generation to generation, often governed by strict rules or regulations. Scarceness and scarcity associated. Now, the major characteristic of indigenous knowledge is generated within the communities, is location and cultural specific, is basic for decision making and survival strategies, is not systematically documented, concerns critical issues of human and animal life, primary production, human and animal life, natural resources, and the management, is dynamic and based on innovation, adaptation, and experimentation, is oral or roller in nature. The major characteristics of Indian traditional knowledge, indigenous traditional knowledge, ITK is not static but dynamic. Indian traditional knowledge or indigenous traditional knowledge is not static but dynamic in nature. Exogenous knowledge and endogenous creativity bring change to the Indian traditional knowledge. Indian traditional knowledge is innovative into its mode of thinking. Indian traditional knowledge is mainly qualitative in nature. Indian traditional knowledge study needs a holistic approach. Indian traditional knowledge, if properly tapped, can provide valuable and insights into a resources, processes, possibilities, and problems in a particular area. Indian traditional knowledge is recovered and transferred through oral tradition. Indian traditional knowledge is learned through observation, hands-on experience. Indian traditional knowledge forms an information base for a variety. Indian traditional knowledge reflects local tradition. The characteristic of indigenous knowledge is the characteristic of indigenous knowledge is generated within the community in location and cultural specific is the basis for decision making and survival strategies is not systematically documented concerns critical issues of human and animal life primary production human and the animal life the natural resources management is dynamic and based on innovation adaptation and experimentation is oral and rural in nature. Indigenous people would transmit through knowledge by oral language or body language. On other hand, the transmission of scientific information relies on writer records and publications, and a teacher simply accelerates the transmission of his knowledge orally. Traditional does not just mean knowledge of the past, but rather than the method of creation of his knowledge is in the traditional way, since people's interaction with the environment produces TK. TK is by no means static, but rather dynamic because of environmental changes. Very much. Please support my channel.